Quick test. When a politician says, explain it to a 10th grader, and they're trying to understand, or are they trying to humiliate somebody on camera? Because this clip is the perfect example of how oversight gets turned into a vibe, a performance, a little viral dominance routine, while the actual point is painfully simple. Make budgets clearer and stop perverse incentives. Now, once how the trap is built.
Your district salaries and expenses project. Give us a 30 or 40 second overview like you're talking to a 10th grader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That line right there, like you're talking to a 10th grader, isn't about clarity. It's about status. It's telling the room, I'm adult, you're the kid, and I'm going to talk over you whenever I want. And notice, but it sets up, not a policy decision, and demeanor test. If the witness takes too long, they failed. To this simplified, they don't know anything. It's a no-win frame. Keep listening.
The way that the Corps of Engineers has received funds from Congress and budgeted has been by project, year over year. We have 39 civil works districts across the country. That's the large part of our staff. The headquarters footprint is very small. Our workforce is spread out. The way that we pay the salaries of those employees is by allowing them to bill to the project. So every project has a labor cost, the cost of the people that are working on that project, and a delivery cost, like a contract to execute the project by.
I get it. How do you?
There it is. The instant interruption. I get it. That's not a conversation. That's a gable in sentence form. The witness is describing a pretty normal government accounting reality. People's time gets charged to the projects they work on. And the senator's already trying to rush past the mechanics because the mechanics are where the truth lives. And now comes the payment. How do you want to do it differently? Was the burning? This is where the gotcha starts forming.
I want to do it differently.
The FY27 President's budget recommends separating the labor costs from the project costs, both to give you transparency so that you understand what portion of each project is tied to labor, as well as to break the incentive that we believe exists between there's a tension between project delivery and district sustainment that we want to break.
So you're doing it for transparency reasons, is that right?
That's correct, sir. That's one of.
This is the core. Separate labor costs from project costs so Congress and the public can see what's won. That's not some exotic ideology. That's basic accountability. How much is labor? How much is delivering? Where the money is going? But the senator's not engaging with that like a policymaker. He's lining up the next move. Force transparency into a cementing argument so he can declare it meaningless. Listen to what he does next, because this is the whole routine.
The reasons.
How is it going to be more transparent if you just have a new entry that says salaries?
Well, Senator, it's because.
How are you going to know what salary goes with what project?
Well, Senator, in the previous way that was budgeted and appropriated, there was no information about salaries, none whatsoever. It was just the project. And so it's more transparent, and then it pulls the salaries out of the projects. That before it was just a project cost, and there was no bifurcation. And so that's why it's more transparent, because it provides more information. This is a rare case where the executive branch is excitedly sharing more information with the legislative branch.
That witness 9, a rare case sharing more information, is a polite way of saying we're literally giving you extra visibility and you're still acting like it's suspicious. Because let's be real, if the executive branch its salaries and set project totals, you'll hear screaming about secrecy. If they break it out, now it's how is that transparent? It's an unfalsifiable posture. Whatever they do, you get to snare. And the witness answers cleanly. Before, the budget didn't show salary information. Now it will. That's transparency. That's not complicated. But the senator isn't trying to understand. He's trying to win a vibe contest. Now watch him shift into the next trap. Okay? But do we have the internal data? This is where the gotcha gets assembled.
Well, will you have internal data that shows how much salary is attributable to a particular project?
Yes, Senator, we've published that information for fiscal year 26 work plan as well as the fiscal year 27 budget request. We've shared that information with your committee, and we've also briefed your committee staff on the back-end accounting system that can track it over the course of time so that we can keep up with project costs.
Have you shared that information with all the members of Congress about the projects in their districts?
Senator, in sharing the FY27 budget request, we shared it, and we have published the split, and we've shared it with every relevant committee in Congress and anyone who's asked.
Okay.
Notice what just happened. The witness says, yes, we can track it internally. Yes, with published and briefed stuff. Yes, we shared the split. And instead of, great, let's formalize it so it's consistent, the senator is loading a conclusion. So you already have it. Therefore, reform is pointless. That's it, Trey. Internal accounting capacity is not the same as making it a clear, formal, front-facing budget structure that Congress can see and enforce. That's like saying you already have a lock on your nose, so why do you need the deadbolt? Now once the senator starts restating the structure like he's doing a courtroom summary. That's not neutral. That's him writing the narrative out loud.
So as I understand it, Mr. Secretary, right now, there's no column for salaries and expenses.
That's correct,
It's
sir.
attributable.
For the districts, that's correct.
Right. It's just included in each project.
That's correct,
right?
sir.
And now you're going to break it out.
Yeah,
Go ahead, General.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're correct.
It'll still be by project. So before there was one lump sum for each project. Now it'll be for the project delivery, the contract, as Mr. Tell spoke to, and then the internal use labor. But it'll still be by project, broken out that way. So each project, you'll see what the in-house labor bill is.
Okay, so for each project, labor and expenses will still be a line item.
Senator, the
But
way,
in terms of the budget, salaries and expenses will be, have its own category, is that right?
yes, sir, that's correct.
Here's what the witnesses are doing. Steady, consistent, not flailing. They're saying you'll still see each project, but now you'll also say the internal labor cost instead of being rolled into one law. That's a practical reform. That's what people say they want when they demand accountability. But the senator's goal isn't to get the best budget presentation. His goal is to keep a line of questioning alive that makes government sound shady by default. And watch how quickly it pivots from transparency to mission. Because mission is where you can inject fear. How does this help anything? Sounds like bureaucracy. Listen carefully to what the witness says about incentives, because this is where governing actually shows up.
How's that going to help the Corps with its overall missions?
Senator, it's gonna help the Corps by incentivizing delivery. What I've heard from commanders in the field is that they're,
How does that incentivize delivery?
bec-
I'm not doubting you, I just don't understand how.
well, today, it is, as I said in my opening statement, when a commander sees that a project that's a cash cow for that district is going to continue next year, it solves a lot of that district commander's management challenges with his staff, because the funding continues and continues, and if the funding expires, quite often Congress will appropriate additional funding. And so projects become lines of revenue for districts, and someone has to make the business decisions about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the district. That tension, if we eliminate, if we take that off the table, that idea that we need to keep projects alive to keep the district healthy, it will solely focus our commanders and our workforce on delivery. That's how it incentivizes delivery. Today, there's an incentive for projects to be extended or to pull projects off the shelf that may not.
But, Mr. Secretary, you got that data.
This is the pan that should matter to everyone watching. The witness is describing a real incentive issue. If payroll is effectively tied up inside ongoing projects, there can be pressure to keep projects running because They supported district staffing stability. That's not a moral accusation. It's an incentive structure. So the trick is separate labor funding in a way that reduces the temptation to keep projects alive for the wrong reason. So the institution is pushed toward delivery. That's accountability. That's reform. That's literally the opposite of government doesn't care. And what does the senator do? It keeps interrupting, keeps flattening, keeps acting like any expression longer than a soundbite is suspicious. Now, here comes the most loaded mode of the whole exchange, gaming the system. What's how that phrase works? Because it's not a question, it's a headline.
Right now, don't you?
Yes, sir, we do.
So you can tell, can you not, when a district manager's gaming the system?
Certainly, in theory, we could and we will going forward, but this question had never been asked before.
What question is that?
The question about how much, at scale, the question about how much of our project budgets were going towards salaries.
Gaming the system. That's a phrase that lights people up. It's designed to. But look at what's actually on the record here. The witness does not confess some scandal. He says we can track salary attribution, and the bigger question of how much of budget go to salaries at scale hasn't been asked in that way before. Meaning they're trying to formalize and clarify. That's the thing. If you're serious about oversight, you take that answer and say, great, show us, institutionalize it, make it consistent. If you're serious about performance, we take gaming the system and you just keep repeating it until it sounds like proof. And now, was the senator go back to the core snare? I just don't understand. This is where the final viral metaphor drops, and it's the cleanest movement in the whole clip.
I just don't understand how coming up with a new line item for salaries and expenses is going to make our lives better if you already have the data anyway.
Senator,
Except it's not listed in the budget.
you're absolutely, in many ways, you're correct. We have the ability administratively, even if you appropriate the way that you've previously appropriated, we have the ability administratively to build what I would call a cardboard firewall between salaries and expenses and project costs. What we're asking the committee to do is help us build a brick firewall so that the demonstration throughout the leadership in Washington is that we're serious about making sure we account for project costs and labor costs, and we can make rational decisions on each side. Right now, that commingling, if we don't go all the way with the Appropriations Committee, our partners here, in my view, that commingling will still ultimately find its way through that cardboard firewall.
All right.
That metaphor, cardboard firewall versus brick firewall, is the entire argument in plain English. Yes, they can track things internally. Yes, they can try to separate it administratively. But if Congress structures the appropriation and the reporting in a way that formally breaks out labor, it becomes harder to blur the line later. It becomes enforceable. It becomes visible. It becomes consistent. That's what adults mean by accountability. Not trust me, we've got spreadsheets. But here's the structure, here's the category, here's the barrier. And the senator's final posture, I just don't get it after having it explained 5 different ways. No, you get it. We just don't want the audience to feel like government can do something competently without being mocked for it. Because competent, transparent governments rules the whole everything is shedding, nothing works, burn it down brand. Hence what you just buzzed, a public official trying to turn a budgeting transparency reform into a humiliation exercise, but interrupting, simplifying on command, and tossing around insinuation like give me the system without actually building anything. And the witnesses, they stayed disciplined. They explained the mechanics. They explained the incentive problem. And they gave you the simplest takeaway imaginable. If you want real accountability, it don't rely on cardboard. You build the brick wall. That's the divide. Serious governments versus performative outrage. And if you're tired of politics that treats you like you can't handle a grown-up explanation, you're not alone. This routine isn't oversight, it's content.